My 1978 with like a 73, 74 grill. Ford truck with a 2021 7.3 Godzilla, 2015 or 18 Mustang IRS, 2011 Crown Vic front, S550 steering rack, and Tesla electric brake booster. It's got about 10,000 miles on it now. It's done great. I recently put a S&B cold air intake on it, and I had to cut the inner fender, which I'll pop the hood real quick and show you. And I was planning on doing custom inner fenders and getting all my wiring and stuff squared away. It's kind of just been in a test period for the past 10,000 miles, but I had to cut this to get this big box in here. And I've always wanted to do cowl mounted hood hinges. They'll mount right there with the inner fender mounts on both sides, and then do custom bead rolled inner fenders. So I moved my battery over here. I'm gonna end up moving it back over here, build a box that'll integrate into the inner fender for this to set down in there. The battery's gonna come back over here in the same box. The wiring's gonna be tucked underneath the inner fenders. They're gonna come out about 8 inches or so, and then drop down a 45 degree to the frame rail, be bead rolled and dimple dyed, and I'll clean up all this mess. And at the same time, I've got the holley intake manifold for it, set of headers for it, truck Norris cam, which I got to go pick up tomorrow, and LS7 lifters, and GT500 throttle body. And all the parts are just now starting to accumulate. So here's the headers. They're going to get sandblasted, and mid pipe, Y pipe, tailpipe. Here's the intake manifold. It's also going to get sandblasted. It's going to get stenciled a Godzilla on the top of it. It's going to be painted body color. The headers, they're going to be Cerakoted body color. GT500 intake manifold and throttle body adapter, and then coil covers. And I've got, these are the 7.3 Godzilla, and they also sent me the Powered by Ford. So I'm going to end up doing one on one side and one on the other. These are also going to be Cerakoted, and then we'll do the letters different color. These will be Cerakoted body color, and then these will, and I'll do that and that probably red, but I'm not sure exactly how we're going to end up doing that. But I'm going to start putting it together this weekend. I've got a bead roller on the way. I'm going to reinforce it and motorize it, and I'm going to mount it to my engine stand. I've got my sandblaster ready to go. I'm about to start blasting these parts, and hood mounts should be here Thursday. And tomorrow I'm going to start pulling the front end of the truck off, pull the inner fenders out, probably dry fit the intake manifold so that I can figure about the angles changed for the throttle body, see what I have to do to keep my S&B intake and still use that, but get my measurements for my inner fenders, and I'll probably end up building them. And this side will be easier. It'll be probably 3 pieces. It's going to probably come out to about here. I'm going to step it and step it up, and then come over and then step down. That's going to be 1 piece. It'll have bead rolls in it, and then this part is going to probably be 2 pieces that are 45 degrees, and I'll probably put a step in it so that they lap up. They'll lap up here, it'll lap under here, and this should have nothing on it. It should just be a pretty inner fender, except I'm going to build a box for the ECU to slide into, and I'll weld that box in, and it'll be bolted to the box. It'll be just the wires, all the connectors will be all that hang out there. And then I also got new fuel rails on the way. The Holley billet Godzilla ones, they're also getting Cerakoted, and the Holley oiling system. This has the time and chain cover already on it, and their alternator brackets and stuff, but that's coming off, and it's getting the Holley oil pan and the Holley time and chain cover for the oil pan with the LS style oil pump, and that's on back order, but as soon as it comes in, it's going to get Cerakoted and installed. So by the end of the weekend, I should have inner fenders built, the engine tore down to the bare block, the cam installed, the phaser limiter installed, cylinder head's back on, everything sandblasted, inner fender's done, painted body color, hopefully painted body color, cowl mounted hood hinges also painted body color. I might just go ahead and paint the whole firewall body color while I'm in here doing this. I don't want to take the brake system apart, and I don't want to take the engine too far apart, but it will be down to a short block. I'll probably cover it up and just go ahead and cover that transmission up, sand down that firewall, get it cleaned up, shoot it body color while I'm at it. So we'll see how that goes. Alright, little progress update on the truck. Got the header sandblasted and the intake sandblasted. And I got these coil covers sanded down. And picked up the cam yesterday. Picked up a bunch of sheet metal, some angle iron, some flat stock. Got the hood off. I'm about to pull front end off of it. Fenders, inner fenders, grill, bumper. I'm going to try to keep the core support. Try to keep the radiator in there for now, because I'm going to change the intake. It's got a different angle for the throttle body. I have to figure out something about that, so I need to take some measurements for that. Need to check and see if the headers are going to fit, so I'm going to pull the exhaust off today. I'm going to pull the intake off and fit that one on there and see about how that's going to line up. Pull all this off the inner fenders, pull the battery out, and then start building some inner fenders out of cardboard. The battery's going to go back over here. It's going to all be Frenched in, support it better. Hood gets mounted to the cowl, so now there's not going to be all that weight on the cowl, so it doesn't have to be crazy, but it still have to be supportive for the battery. Over here, I got the bead roller in and got it reinforced and modified, and waiting on a winch. I have to do something different about the mount because it's not going to clear that engine hoist stand, but I'll do that whenever that winch comes in and see what my clearance is like. But it's pretty much where we're at right now. I'm going to get to work, pull this front end off, and start building some inner fenders out of cardboard. Godzilla truck update. Been getting a lot of stuff done. Had my brother-in-laws come over, they helped me. Figured out that I'm going to actually end up having to pull the engine out just because the oil pan is way too close to the cross member. I wasn't planning on doing that, but after I stepped back and took a look at it, there's no way that I could get around not doing it. So we got it jacked up on all fours, and they got pretty much everything just about ready, tore apart for it to come out. And I've been doing sheet metal work, getting these inner fenders built and ready, and here's what they're looking like. They're in two pieces over here. I got this top panel, it's not completely done, and then this inside panel, and it's going to cover up all the wiring. It's all going to be tucked in underneath of it. And then there's the engine getting tore apart, and we're about to take the intake off tomorrow and test fit the change of the angle to the air box, because I'm wanting to retain this S&B cold air intake that I have. And this one's been a lot more work than the other side, because I've got the battery that's going to go in here and the air filter assembly that's going in here, and this is going to have to be supported underneath of here to retain the correct angle, keep this as flat as possible. And then the hood hinges are going in here. They already actually have got them test fitted. They fit, got everything cut and notched, and they're sandblasted. But that's where we're at on it. Got the bead roller set up. It's working great. Sheet metal station, welding, everything. I've been sanding over here and putting parts in back here, and she's slowly going together. By the end of the night, I was planning on by the end of the night tonight having the engine out and tore down and the cam installed and making a lot more progress than I ended up making, but this was kind of slower moving than I was expecting, so just working with what I got. I got a little bit of time off, so I'm trying to knock out as much as I can while I can before I have to go back. But by the end of it, I'm still going to end up making panels to fill this area in. They're going to be dimple dyed. We did the first dimple dye down here. I was going to do that one, but I got carried away and welded it in before I remembered. And these are going to be dimple dyed, large to small. And then I'm going to make another filler panel that's going to go over and dimple dye in a spot for the radiator cap. And then it's going to come over, dimple dye a spot in for my brake fluid reservoir. And then it's going to kind of French into these inner fenders. They won't be welded in, but I'll kind of roll them in real nice where there's no jagged edges and you just about won't be able to tell. But there she is in all her glory, coming together. Another progress update on my green truck. Been still working on the inner fenders, made a lot more progress on them. This one's bolted in, and I've got some tabs that I'm going to spot weld on the back of the less supported pieces, which is going to be that back corner, that lower corner, and then this lower corner. And they're a spot weld on the back and then bolted into some of the original inner fender mounting locations. And on this side, I've got pretty much how it's going to be. It's going to get adjusted a little bit over there. It's not very level right now. I got to raise it up a little bit with the tab. Doing the tabs the same way. And I'm going to probably build some sort of support bracket underneath of it, just so the battery is a little bit better supported. And in hindsight, I shouldn't have probably ended up using this S&B cold air filter box and just built my own, but it is what it is. I've already got the money in it, so I'm gonna go ahead and rock with it. But none of my air intake ducting is gonna work because the S&B has that little box on there. And so my plan is I ordered some aluminum and mass airflow sensor bung and 90-degree elbow, and I'm gonna just weld it up, make it fit. And here's the holley intake just sitting on there, GT500 throttle body, wiring harness is pulled off, and it's just about ready to come out. It's just transmission mounts and motor mounts are all that's holding it in right now, but I was still getting my measurements and stuff. So I guess tomorrow I'll end up taking the core support and all the fenders and stuff off and getting back to it. But that's about all I got for now. There's the cam still in the box. Haven't even got to look at it yet. Hopefully by the end of tomorrow night I'll be throwing that on there. Green Godzilla truck update once again. I ran into some problems with the S&B cold air intake last night and decided that it just looked out of place with what I was going for. So after thinking about it all night, I decided just to go back to the hot air intake that the Mars harness had come with that I went away from, but now I've got it to where it's going to go through the inner fender apron and it's enclosed in the box, and I'll use some of that sound deadening material to kind of insulate it a little bit. I got the engine pulled out of the truck and on the stand, just got done with that. Transmission's just sitting there ready to be hooked back up, and I'm about to start tearing into this, and my goal is to get the cam in, the lifters in, and the heads back on, and then I'm waiting on the timing chain cover that has these 4 bosses drilled out so that you can bolt the oil pump to it and the holley oil pan and that whole kit. So once that comes in, I'll sandblast it, all of it, brackets, timing chain cover, oil pan, sandblast all of it, and get it ready for Cerakote. I'm going to Cerakote in 2 or 3 weekends. The headers, the intake, timing chain cover, fuel rails, oil pan, and probably the air intake tube over there, just that shiny aluminum tube. So that tube's going to go through the inner fender, and I've got a hole in it. It's underneath of these over here, but I got the hole right there in it so that it can go through there, and then it's going to go into that box and it'll be insulated. And it's finishing up welding up some mounting tabs onto these inner fenders, and then they're going to get sanded and prepped for paint. Some of them are going to have to get a little skim coat on them just because the bead roller had some imperfections, and like that panel over there was already warped to begin with, so I'm going to straighten it out a little bit. But that's where we're at. By the end of the night, the engine will be tore all the way down to the short block, and then cam replaced, lifters replaced, heads back on, and waiting on time and chain cover and oil pump stuff. Here's what the front suspension setup is. It's just a Crown Vic front suspension. It's got the Backyard Customs boxing plates and Viking double adjustable coilovers, eBay slotted and drilled rotors, S550 electric power steering rack, and I'm pretty sure that Outcast makes that mount for that. I can't remember. They definitely make the motor mounts. The trans cross member was just a cheap Amazon trans cross member, and it worked perfect. And then I boxed in the frame rails there, and then it's hard to tell from back here probably with the sunlight, but I did raise the floor pan a little bit for the trans to fit, and it still sets right up against it. But I'm going to go through here, and I've got a Vaporworks fuel controller. I'm going to take that off because I never actually ended up needing it or using it, and that'll clean up some of the stuff that's going to be underneath of it. But back here's the S550 they're in, and it's welded in, plated in. I did that a long time ago, and at the time there wasn't any kits for putting them in. And I had worked with some guy, and we'd come up with the dimensions and ended up cutting off the mounts and just welding it in. And he ended up going and making some kits to do it, so he made it a lot easier for everybody wanting to do it on these trucks or the body style before. But it's a mess in here. Parts laying everywhere, fluids everywhere, everything pulled apart. But tonight, the engine's going to start going back together, and then at that point I'll start doing body and paint work on my inner fenders and just killing time waiting on parts to show up. I picked up a SKS, 300 bucks. Got about, I don't know, probably 800 rounds with it, not included in the price, just for free. And it didn't look like it had ever been shot. I probably put 80 rounds through it now. Shoots great. Having a lot of fun with that. But Godzilla truck progress update. Got the engine pulled apart, separated from the transmission, pulled apart, and it's been a pain in the ass. So the everything come apart pretty well, except the the VVT bolt, which is now welded onto the end of a tie rod end from the Crown Vic rack and pinion. The VVT bolt didn't want to come out because I didn't buy the holder for it, and I used a pair of $7 oil filter locking pliers, and didn't want to hold it. I didn't want to put an impact on it, and then finally I was like, whatever, put the impact on it, come right off. Didn't change my timing or anything, so should have done that first place, but whatever. So down to the bare block, there's the parts that's not getting reused, and plus the harmonic balancer. Gonna sell that Holley time and chain cover because it doesn't have the holes drilled out for the oil pump to go into it. But the truck Norris cam is installed. The shop is a wreck. The lifters are soaking. All these parts need to be cleaned up and get ready to reinstall. I'm gonna clean the block up, get it ready, and then I started doing the cam phaser, putting the limiter in it, and like everybody was saying, none of the Torx bits fit real well, and I was very careful, and got the first 3 out, no problem, and the last one stripped out. I mean, I tried like 10 times, and finally it just stripped out. It was on its way to stripping out, and then it stripped out. So that's where I was at with that. So I welded it up and put a slot in it to try to make it a flathead. Still couldn't get it out. And this is the one that goes in between the spring, not the one that has the hook on it. And just had a lot of pressure on it is what it was. And in hindsight, if there was better video showing, number one, in depth, closely, how it comes apart, then that would have helped. But if I had known the best bet would have been to push on that little tang right there and to relieve some of that spring pressure while you're taking them loose. These two short ones, they come out no problem. The two long ones with spring pressure on, if you push or pull on that tang and you relieve the pressure, you can actually just put a flathead screwdriver in behind that and then pry around on it and then push against it. Then you relieve the pressure on both of them, and that would have been way better to know in the first place. So slotting it didn't work, so I had to weld a nut onto it, and then when I was putting it back together, I didn't get it in between the springs like it is now, and I broke the nut off, hoping that I never have to get in here again, and realized that it wasn't in between the springs, so I had to weld another nut on, but it took 3 tries to do that. So I finally got it, and I'm done for the night. And tomorrow I'll start cleaning everything up and start reassembly. So that's where we're leaving off at. Another Godzilla truck update. Engine's finished, put the cam in it, cam phaser limiter, and pulled the heads off, put new lifters in it, new head gaskets, new head bolts, waiting on the timing chain cover and the oil pan. This cheap LS style oil filter or oil passage adapter for the sensor did not fit underneath of the low profile intake manifold, so I had to order the Fender garage one. And I got a sandblast, this air duct tube. I can't remember where I left off at, but I decided not to use the S&B cold air intake, so ended up welding my sheet metal back up that I had notched out for that to fit, and ended up cutting a hole out for that tube to fit through and for it to be its own air box. Cleaned up all the wiring, pretty much completely redid it. It was a mess because things happened at different times, and so now everything happened at once, and it's all dedicated to be hidden under the fenders and ran a lot better way. And then, let's see, nothing's new over here, but I was finishing up the inner fenders and had a couple low spots, so filled them with some Bondo and then blocked them out. And my Bondo was kind of old, so it wasn't perfect, but it's fine. And then ended up getting them painted by the end of the day, so everything's done, just waiting on parts pretty much. And I'm gonna Cerakote. There's the hood hinges painted, what you can see of them. Anything that you can't see, I didn't paint. Didn't want to waste the paint. I didn't paint the back of these. They're just still in primer, which is how I pretty much did everything beforehand. Everything that's painted, I only painted the exterior or what you actually see. So there's a hole for the air cleaner to go through. That's a box for the ECM to set in. That hole right there is for the fuse panel to pop in through, and that hole's for the battery terminal wires to come through, and that hole's just for water to drain or air to get into the, this is the air filter box right there next to the battery box. And so once those parts come in, once I get this stuff Cerakoted, should be the weekend after the 17th, which I go back to work that day. I'll come back that weekend, put the engine together, drop it back in, get the core support on, inner fenders on, wiring harness ran, headers on, everything hooked back up, and I doubt that I'll have it done. And then I built this radiator slash core support cover, and I should have bead rolled around my dimple dies, but I have my engine on the stand, and I used the stand to mount my bead roller, so I guess I could have put it in the vise, but I didn't even think about it until it was too late. I got the parts that are getting Cerakoted cleaned up, sandblasted one final time, cleaned up, and then heated up and gassed out, and they're all ready to go. I was tinkering around with the Bronco, which is going to be another build eventually. I had 2 different ideas. We picked it up for like 200 bucks at an auction. It has a title, and I ended up doing plugs and wires and distributor cap and rotor, and put a 4-barrel on it, and just kind of messed around with it. And I had it running. It had been driving. The guy died, and I've been seeing this truck for years. And the dude drove it forever, and but it's got bad compression on several cylinders, and it's just wore out. It's a 351M, and or 400 or whatever it is, and I've got a 460 I could throw in it that come out of the green truck, but I think the plan is, we're back and forth on what we're going to do with it. I think the plan is that we're going to full chassis Crown Vic swap it, just because it's cheap and easy, and throw it on the ground, do the body work on it, paint it. I'll bead roll out new floors for it and everything. But I mean, it's in pretty bad shape. But I've drove it one time, and I've drove a lot of scary shit in my life, and I drove this one time and I turned around like a mile up the road because it's just clapped out. It's filled with spray foam. The back glass was busted out at some point, and the dude put like a camper trailer or a camper window in there and some sheet board, so now you can't open the tailgate. It's all spray foamed up and spray painted, and I mean, it's probably a 300-something thousand mile vehicle. Show you the interior. I just kind of drove it around the woods mostly here, and 4-wheel drive works in it and everything, but we'll be taking all that out. The back seat doesn't look like it's ever really been sat in, but the driver's seat's worn out, and I mean, it shows its age. Ranger XLT, but I don't know. It's cool. We also considered getting a newer model truck, like my wife's truck, like a 16, like a 15 or newer F150, and cutting the frame down and making it fit that. But I think we're just gonna Crown Vic swap it. And then this is one of the Galaxies. There's a Maverick there and another Galaxy. They're twins. This one runs and drives. This one obviously doesn't right now, but it's been frame off. The frame's completely done. Everything's replaced. It's got a 390 and a C6, and it runs. It's rebuilt, and I did that probably 6 or 7 years ago. Started body work and then lost interest on it. That was my first car, and then I found this one that was been sitting for a long time, had one owner, and block was rusted through. It's a 3 on the tree, and I got aluminum heads and big cam headers, intake, poured and polished the heads to the intake, and it runs pretty good. It needs a different set of rear gears in it, but it's also, I didn't take the body off the frame, but I completely redid everything, got underneath of it, wire wheeled everything, all new bushings, converted to front disc brakes, power steering. It was just a base model car, and I got a wagon way over there, you can't see, it's a 68 wagon, and it's actually where the 390 come from, and where most of the parts for this come from. The rear end had like a it was like a 8.75 or 7 3/4 or something like that. It was whatever come in the Mustangs. It was like not the 9-inch. It's kind of like a WER rear axle, and I put the 9-inch in it, and now it needs a different set of rear gears because it was set up for the 390 and the C6. But this Galaxy, I put all new quarters in it, front and rear. Had to rebuild the firewall, did some spots in the floors, cab corners, cowl panel. And this does run. It looks like shit now. It's been sitting, but it does run and drive. And I actually had this engine in here before I tore it apart. I had a 302 in it, or 289 when I got it, and then I put a 302 in it, blew that up, and then I put a 331 stroker in it, and then pulled that out and sold it, and then put the 390 in it, and then the cam eccentric had walked out, and it put a bunch of metal shavings from the timing chain cover all in the engine, and it didn't hurt it really, but ended up having to put new bearings and stuff in it when I rebuilt it, just because it did have a little bit. The oil pressure was still fine and everything, but just in case. I rebuilt it completely back to stock. I didn't even put a cam or anything in it, but I'm kind of regretting that now. I'll probably end up, I kind of stopped on it because I built my green truck and I like the modern suspension and stuff, so I'm probably going to do something like that with this, or with that one. This has an 8-inch in it, and I put 355 rear gears in it, rear disc brakes, front disc brakes, tubular, Mustang 2 front suspension, manual rack and pinion, manual wheel wood brakes, master cylinder, and then I built, this car was really rusted out and it was really filled with spray foam. I built subframe connectors, torque boxes. I had to rebuild this entire car. The rear has Mustang mandrel bit rear frame rails, and cut the entire subframe out and welded in a new frame out of square tubing. And I had the whole front end of the car cut off at one point. Now that I got the bead roller, I'll probably end up cutting the inner fender aprons back off and building some custom ones. And but it's set up for a Coyote, and I got a 302 that I had in there just for mocking stuff up, and ended up putting it in that car. Actually, I tore it apart and built it, and then I have another one up in the other shop. It's fresh from the machine shop, wrapped up and ready to be built. But yeah, that's pretty much all the projects around here. That car's out of daily driver. I mean, it stays here, but when I'm at Fort Campbell, I'll take my truck, but I'm on leave right now, so we're gonna take the new truck back and drive that for about 4 weeks until the parts come in, and then put this back together, and I'll be daily driving it again. But it's still a mess in here, and still got parts on back order that were supposed to ship yesterday and they didn't, and now they're saying they might ship tomorrow. Some more parts that are supposed to ship in 3 or 4 weeks, but still waiting on stuff.